Okay, welcome to the Board of Park Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, March 1st. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers?
Here.
Mr. Emmer?
Here.
Mrs. Westphal?
Here.
Okay, we have our minutes of the January 4th, 2022 meeting and the joint meeting with the Recreation Department for January 19th. The Park Board portion, if any, is up for approval. So are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to either one of those set of minutes?
None here.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. First report, Mr. Drake, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Anything to add to your report?
I do not have anything to add.
Oh, come on, we gotta spend a little time with you.
If I can think of something.
Well, you've got something to talk about.
Yeah, well, we were walking at Duke Park and saw the turf, somebody turfed the
Yes,
soccer
yeah,
field.
so that just happened yesterday. I received the report at about 5:30, I think it was. Troy PD, they sent an officer out.
Two of them, we were out there
Yeah,
when
okay,
they were
they're out
looking at
there.
it, yeah.
At first, we couldn't find where it was after I got the report. I did look at it. We actually went out this morning and were able to smooth out most of the ruts. So compared to last time when I first took the report, it sounded like it was pretty extensive like it was the last time, several years back, and that was almost $5,000 damage. So that's initially what I told dispatch and told the first officer. And then when I got out there, I realized what it was. So apparently, probably a teenage kid. We didn't have a witness to the actual incident. Drove from the north parking lot straight across one of the soccer fields and then to the bike path and then exited the park. So after we were out this morning, it was pretty minimal. It looked a lot worse than what it actually was, mostly just muddy tracks rather than deep ruts. So
it wasn't off Troy Urbana Road, or Troy Pickle Road?
no, they did not come in off of Troy Sidney. They actually drove from the parking lot already in the park across the fields and then exited. They didn't even exit straight to Troy Sidney. They turned down the bike path, it looked like,
Yeah,
and
You
then
could tell
went to
that
the
they had
main
turned onto it.
entrance and then out the main entrance.
Well, we were concerned about parking along Troy City.
Yes, yeah.
How's that being addressed?
It's not been an issue at all so far. To initially get the grass seed established, we had run temporary fence stakes all the way along Troy Sidney. And then we have signed every single pole down through there with no parking on grass signs. So we will be
That's a
continuing
permanent thing?
permanently. Those signs are going to stay.
I don't like the look of that.
Well, I guess we could let people park on the grass or sign it to make sure they know not to park on the
Or
grass.
put the fence back up?
Or, yeah, look at that.
Let's take a look at it, and next time we do our tour of the shoot, let's take a closer look at that.
Yeah.
I know that's gonna happen again.
So, yeah, well, and again, so this last incident had nothing to do with the white fence. The
Right,
white fence.
but it's so easy to pull. I mean, I thought there was gonna be more of a berm there to keep that
Yeah.
from happening.
None on the north end, definitely on the south end where there's curbing and then the increased slope of that bank. I don't think that's going to be a problem on the south end at all. The main thing is just that we're sending a strong signal to park patrons now that it is very well signed. And all of my staff know, and we want to get the word out that if people are found and seen parking there, that Troy PD will be called and they will be asked to move or they'll be towed.
Ken, I think it'd be helpful too for the recreation programs that might be out there to kind of let them know about no parking on Troy Sidney. You just send it out there with the team rosters and things of that nature perhaps.
Well, no, it'll probably be no problem until there's a big tournament or something out there.
Tournaments are probably going to be the big, and they are anyway. I mean, we've struggled with that even on the south end. We had, I think it was 2 years ago, we had people parking in the front yards of residents along there. So that's when we signed the south end. It pretty well took care of it. And then we've gone on the north end and done that as well. So,
Are there any plans to expand any of the parking? I've talked to a couple of pickleball players recently, and with the soccer tournaments, that parking lot by the pickleball area, that
it's
gets,
extremely full.
it's
and
way
extremely
too
busy.
small
Yeah.
for that area.
Yeah, so in our initial, our long-term plan for Duke Park, we do have a plan to address that parking issue. And that was part of the plan that when we were going for the levy, that we had in place if that would have happened. We have a very good workable solution for through drive that goes all the way around the south soccer fields and then exits out the very south end of our property, as well as increased parking in those parking lots that are existing, so to expand those.
Okay.
So no short-term solution, but we do have a vision and a long-term plan for how that would be addressed.
Are there any timelines for the new walking path to be opened and?
You're talking about Robinson Reserve?
Yeah.
Right now, it's just waiting on weather. We kind of, our weather window closed pretty quickly in the fall once the warm weather that had kind of extended. Once that ended, that closed really quickly. Right now, we're just waiting on ground conditions for the planting to start as well as the walking path to go in. So that could happen, fairly soon if we get a week like we have this week, if we get kind of that extension, although I do see rain in the forecast for this weekend. So right now it's just waiting on ground conditions to allow us to get in there to do that.
And what about connectivity from the parking lot to that park? Like if somebody wanted to go to that, they have to walk all the way around, or what's the?
Yeah, so we're gonna try to direct people to the very northeast parking lot between the Teener baseball field, we call it Teener Field or Field 5, and Field 3. And then it'll just be the walk across the grass to the bike path, the paved back bike path, and then right up the bike path to the gravel walking trail. They could park at the Timba Trailhead entrance, which is just south of softball field 1, and come around the path that way, but it'd be a further walk to get there.
Okay.
So no, like we had laid out in the original plan, there's no direct parking right against Robinson Reserve.
Is there any plans to like that space between the ball fields, between the single field that's towards the road and the quad? Is there any plans to put any connectivity there?
No immediate plan.
Okay.
No, but that's something we could look at as well for future. Kind of the biggest thing right now is just we'll see how people use it. Sometimes it's best to let it kind of work itself out. We'll see where people prefer to park, kind of traffic flow, and then we can build from there. And it makes more sense that way.
Yeah.
Rather than just trying to build something and then we find out later that we didn't quite have it in the right spot.
Okay.
And then back to the fence just real quick, we'll continue to evaluate that. We definitely, this isn't the end all for that north end of Duke Park, but maintenance-wise and sight lines and visually, I think it's a huge improvement without the fence that was in need of a lot of repair. We'll just work through what kind of issues that may come up moving forward.
I thought the fence was attractive though, as long as you didn't get up too close to it.
Yeah,
Well,
don't
yeah,
get close,
yeah.
and the thing was falling down in places and had a lot of issues.
Is that wood or composite?
It was vinyl.
All right, any other questions, Mr. Drake? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Seiler, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Anything to add to your report, sir?
I just want to hit on with Look Troy again, like I did last month. We continue to have a good number of reservations continuing to come in. As I had mentioned last month, or not, I guess 2 months ago, that we were putting the reservations online, and that seems to have been working really well. It's kind of just helped with a lot of back and forth between our staff and people trying to reserve, and so we've tried to answer really all the questions that we've experienced in the past, put them online so they can see all that information when they're reserving shelters. And at this point, there's 4 dates that are sold out. We've got over 100 tents reserved, and we're about 40% full already. So I would anticipate we'll get close to filling them all up again.
That's awesome.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
we're going very well.
Good.
And just got a good number of events that are upcoming here at the arena over the course of the next couple months.
Well, just a question. With the thought about taking out the low dam, what's going to be the impact to the floating Troy? Do you know?
Well, if according to Donnie Knight, and Donnie works for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, kind of leading the studies for how this will work. With the addition of some weir structures that will be built into the plan. The level in and around Treasure Island and the harbor and immediately out where the tents are is not supposed to change.
Oh, really?
According to all the data that he showed us in the models that they
And you signed a personal guarantee to that effect?
would go that far.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Ken, did you have anything else? Any other questions for Mr. Seiler? No. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Kyler. How are you?
Doing well. Yourself?
Okay. You have anything to add to your report?
Just to add, today was opening day, so things are going very well so far. It's busy, weather cooperated. Of course, conditions are pretty good for this time of year. Things have dried out really well after all the snow in February. Yeah, we're schedule's pretty well set for the year in terms of tournaments, outings, and leagues. We have pretty much all of our leagues coming back, as well as a couple additions. So I think we're up to about 21 golf leagues right now, which is a really, really solid number. And but no, things are going well.
Part of your report says you're working towards raising the drop ceiling in the shoreline.
Yes.
Tell me about why that's necessary.
Sure. So that the drop ceiling in there is set at a height of about 9.5 to 9.6 for the installation of simulators in that area to take place. The ceiling height's got to be raised up to a minimum of 10 feet for commercial simulators to work. And so that they've actually come out today and started work on that. So we expect that to be done in 2 weeks or less, so that it won't interfere at all with the Shoreline season.
If you were to go out in a simulator and use your driver for full swing, you're not going to hit the ceiling?
Not if it's, not as long as if it's set at, right, like the units that we're getting are enclosures that are about 9 feet 9 inches. And so you need that extra 2 to 3 inches so that you have some space between where the ceiling would be and where the top of the simulator is.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. Any questions for Tyler? Thank you. I don't have any planning commission report. Okay, new business. Consideration of the 2022 listing of events for Plaza and other park areas. Mrs. Knight, did you want to address that issue?
We have provided you with a list of proposed events for 2022 that may use park property. Some of them may not ultimately, but just to be on the safe side, particularly with some things that were requested by Troy Main Street, we went ahead and put them on the list. It's a pretty aggressive schedule that we're happy to see after the last couple of years. I know that there's particularly a 6-day period in June where we have only 5 concerts scheduled. Ken, I think we need to work really hard to get another concert on that one night. But it's a nice list. It's going to keep us all very busy. I'd like to point out a couple of things that are in the memo, of course, regarding the Strawberry Festival. It's coming back. It'll be downtown. It'll be on the levee. We've had a specific request that on Saturday and Sunday there would be a beer garden on the levee area. And that would have to eventually go to council, be a part of a notwithstanding ordinance and an agreement. We wanted to make sure the park board was aware of it and see if there were any questions. And the other is the Juneteenth event, which last year was the first year. This again will be at McKagan Race Park. The Juneteenth Committee is including putting in some booths in the park that would include perhaps the sale of some merchandise and some food. So we'll make sure that you were aware of that as well. I would note that this list is in addition to the one for Bruckner Park that's also on your agenda that came in after. We have no conflict with any of the dates on Bruckner Park, and Carrie at the arena has already set those aside tentatively upon your approval. So that just adds to a lot of the activities.
Sure. Well, let's first address the Plaza events. You'd like to have a motion to approve those dates, right?
Right. If we try to do that as a blanket, knowing that if there are additions, we will bring them to you. Sure. If there are major changes, we would bring those back to you. And that can happen particularly with the timing. Somebody can decide a concert needs to be a half an hour earlier or later or whatever. But then the Strawberry Festival and the Juneteenth are part of this.
I took a look through the the schedule, and I was really interested in this group that you had coming in, Thai concert.
A TI, Treasure Island.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yes.
Anybody have any problems? Jeremy, did you take a look at the concert schedule?
Yes.
You're okay with that?
Now, Jeremy's been involved in looking at these events as we've been adding them, and as has Ken. We wanted to make sure that everyone was aware. We want to avoid conflicts, two things on one day, bad enough, 5 and 6 days.
Okay, let's first of all go ahead and address the issue concerning the dates for the tentative concert dates. If nobody's got any problem, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
And there are concerts and other activities.
Excuse me.
Sure.
That's implied in the motion. Okay.
Yes.
Having concert day and other activities in the motion. Next thing for discussion, however, is going to be the beer garden. The Strawberry Festival has been in existence for, what, 235 years? And this is the
kind of.
first time they've had a beer garden?
Yes.
Why do they need a beer garden?
Speaking for them, I think they feel it's a draw, it's a moneymaker, it's something that patrons have requested.
Patrons have requested. I always thought the Strawberry Festival was more family-oriented, and we didn't need to have a beer garden. But, I don't know, what do you guys
And
think?
again, the Strawberry Festival is to support the nonprofits as well, which helps this maybe
Who's
help
getting the
people.
money out of the beer garden?
That would be the Strawberry Festival Committee, I believe, and the chamber, okay.
Any comments or thoughts about it?
It's on the levy, you said?
Yes,
Well, it's actually down off the levee.
down off the levee, kind of behind the stadium, a bit
Right.
west of that. We have a map in there that's kind of, this is a general location, it may be laid out a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I have no problem with it, as long as it's,
It would be
designated area.
enclosed, it would have security, it would have restrooms within the enclosed area.
Are they going to be able to carry the beer out of this
No.
area?
No.
Does anybody want to make a motion to recommend it to council or not recommend it to council?
I'll make a motion to recommend the beer garden to council to approve it.
I can second that.
Second by Mr. Emmerich. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. Okay, next matter is a discussion of the, thank you, Mrs. Knight.
You're very
Anything else?
You did Juneteenth? Is that all with the?
That's part of the,
Wasn't Juneteenth on here?
Juneteenth is on there, yes, it's also in the paragraph where we highlight the Strawberry Festival, and just note that this would be the first year that well, it's only their second year, that they would include perhaps the sale of items depending upon what vendors they get, maybe some food, maybe some books or other information. I'm really not sure what the other information is. The Juneteenth Committee is just in the process of forming this part of the program.
Will they be requiring any city services?
The city services will be electric, which will be basically to the site. Not really that I'm aware of, other
Will
than
they
that.
have to do anything, will they have to do all the things that anybody else who want to use Proudy Plaza have to do?
They will,
Permit,
yes, yes.
Insurance, all that sort of stuff?
Right,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Yeah, that was in the motion. All right. Okay. Next, we have the discussion and approval of a new Park Department Maintenance Office Building. Jeremy, you want to go ahead and tell us what you got here?
Yeah, so we can touch on this. So I believe the first page you have basically is the elevation drawings to show what the exterior of the building will look like. As far as the location, I met with our utilities department as well as our electrical department to determine where utilities would come in and what existing utilities were already in the park. After doing that, we determined that the original location, we wanted to place the building over kind of between the existing barns and the restroom building, if you would, or shelter 4. There's a sewer main that runs through there that we're not able to place the building. So an alternative site was kind of across the driveway to the north, behind and attached to the existing metal barn that sits kind of off by itself.
Is that what you pointed out to us in our tour of parks? the
Yes.
Location?
Yeah, we did look at that. So what you see on that first sheet, the very top drawing would be basically standing from our service drive that goes back to the barns looking to the north or toward the dog park. And
Okay.
so you see the white building kind of centered and slightly to the left. That's the existing steel building that's there now. We would actually attach to the back of that. The second drawing down on that same page is from the north looking to the south. So basically we're standing like at the dog park looking south. That's the rear of the building.
So these
Bottom-
garage doors will
Yes,
go
yes,
all the
so
way through?
the door to the left would provide a pull-through bay where we could actually pull clear through from the back to the front or front to the back. From the front elevation of the building, the two overhead doors, those would just pull straight into a bay with no immediate exit on the following side. Bottom left is basically from the east looking west at the end of the building, and bottom right is from the west looking east. The smaller structure off to the end there, the 30 by 40 by 10 foot high, is the proposed area that would be office, break room, restrooms, locker areas for employees, kind of a common area, meeting space that would be fully finished interior. And then the larger 16 high structure would be the actual maintenance building storage portion of the building. So this was, and then the next page you'll see is kind of just the overhead footprint of the coverage of the building that shows the door locations and so forth. The design of this building, we're sitting at 7,200 square feet. We are just under, in a building now that's just under 6,000 square feet. So the idea is we have a lot of equipment sitting outside at Duke Park. It's in a fenced-in area, so it's secure. But if we're going to build this, let's get more of that equipment indoors and out of the weather. Plus future potential growth and so forth. 7,200 really is going to meet our current need.
Current need. We've been in this building right next to Hobart Arena for, I can't even remember when it was.
70s?
Since the 70s. Is this going to take care of our needs for the future? You know, it's going to take care of current needs.
Yeah.
But plan out 10, 15, 20 years from now. Do you think it's got enough space?
It's hard to say. I think it will, and that's the idea of building it slightly bigger than what we're already in now. I think that coupled with, just so we're all clear too, this includes us keeping our current storage space with the current barns at Duke Park. We're not planning on pulling anything out of those barns to put them into this building. We need every bit of space we already have at Duke Park, plus this space. There's a lot of talk kind of between recreation and parks right now for how our old building will be used and what's going to happen with that. We don't have all those details worked out yet, but the idea of this building is to get our people, our staff that currently meet at the building next to Hobart Arena and then have to drive or get themselves out to Duke Park where equipment is. We eliminate that kind of back and forth, and everything's going to be more centralized and located all together at Duke Park.
It's not shown on here, but it's a pretty high building. I know you've got some equipment that takes up a lot of vertical space, but is there storage on the second floor there? Like
We have potential to eventually be able to add a loft space that would eventually be potentially on the west end of the building toward just outside of the office break room common area space. And we currently have pallet racking that's floor to ceiling high in our existing building that would be moved out there so that we could utilize that additional space as well. The 16-foot high building is needed to accommodate a 14-foot door. All of our larger pieces of equipment need that 14-foot high door to be able to get out, in and out. So that's why those walls are showing a 16 high. Kind of just to fill you in on where we came up and how we ended on this layout and this design. Just kind of thinking our work flow through and speaking with my staff. I've had a couple different sit-downs with my employees to go over design and what we thought would work and not work and where doors needed to be. That's how, just taking kind of that input from staff and working things together, we came up with like this pull-through bay, still leaving space on the exterior walls for that floor-to-ceiling pallet racking and that kind of thing. This plan right here, we've not planned to hire an architect to do any kind of design work. This was through a local company that sells pole barn packages, if you will. So they have kind of this in-house design service. And then part of the bid spec that will go out is that whoever does bid on this includes an engineered stamped drawing that we can then take to building development and get our building permit. So that's, there's been a lot of questions about who's designing, who's the architect, how's that going to work. The pole barn package should come with those stamped engineered drawings that we need. And so that's where these elevations have come from and that the drawing of the footprint of the building have come from.
Will there be any site development that's necessary? I know that with the pull-through, you're going to have some sort of pad on the other side.
Minimal, yes. There will be gravel down. We do have concrete approaches figured into the front edge of the building, as well as that back portion where that door is pulled in, or where we pull into that back door. So there will be 5-foot concrete approaches on those. As far as the actual site itself, we've got the equipment and manpower to be able to skin the topsoil off and put the gravel in, and then the company comes in and sets the building. That's what would be in the bid spec, was to build it, and then concrete floor and so forth.
You only got one pull-through. You got 3 doors on one side. You think you could use any other pull-throughs, or is just one going to be enough?
I think one would be enough, and that way, again, we leave that, the concern was we eat up too much of the wall space and not have, we have so many doors, then we don't have that wall space for snow plows and seed and sports equipment and all those other things that we need to be able to store against the walls.
Gotcha. Any questions about this issue?
So the existing building there, you're not tying into that, it's just.
We
just
actually
bump-
are.
You are tying
Yes,
into it?
yeah,
Okay.
this will be built right against the back of that. The idea there is eventually we can open up that whole back wall of that existing building and let that be one huge
Okay.
bay into the new part as well.
It's not structural?
No, that's all steel. There's a steel beam that runs across the top.
Okay.
So that siding, it's just steel siding that can be removed, and the steel beam is high enough it can stay in place.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I think the park board ought to approve that for bidding, so I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the plans for submittal and recommendation to council for adoption and bidding the package.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It passes. Thank you. Okay, next we have consideration use by Bruckner Park for the Troy Miami County Public Library. We have a list of dates. Jeremy, did you take a look at those dates? Any conflicts with you and your park
I
department?
did, yes, and actually, so the way this came about was I started within a few days, I received like 3 or 4 requests from the individual librarians.
Ah,
And so I thought, rather than piecemealing this thing all season, why don't we just get a all-encompassing list? So they did send that, and that's what you have before you. No city services requested. It's very similar to all the programs they've done in the past. So I figured we could just get this for the entire season.
Sure. Any other questions?
No issues with that.
Motion, anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve the library usage of Bruckner Park.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Adopted. Are you going to be in communication with them, let them know it's
Okay.
okay?
Yep,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, next we have a discussion recommendation regarding the policy guidelines for approval of declaring as a surplus park board property, and in particular 2396 Waterford Drive. Who's leading that discussion? We're all looking at you, Mr. Davis.
Okay, I guess I will. So this is not a new encroachment. This is a pre-existing one.
Right.
That the homeowner adjacent to the encroachment, I'm reading 2396 Waterford, never resolved the fence issue like she said she was going to. She came back to us recently and said, well, I'd like to consider buying it now. I think she exhausted her other options. We informed her that that's all well and good. Since she is now by herself and we have to go through the state process, her administrative costs will be borne 100% by her rather than split amongst the other property owners. I think it was as recently as today she came in, and so she's now having third thoughts, if you will. However, we did want to ask for Park Board recommendation to declare it surplus. Does not mean that it has to go forward with the council. We'll wait until she resolves the issue. She has a fence company coming in to see what the cost would be to move the fence back onto her property. I will say, full disclosure, she did ask whether the city could mark for a third time the actual property lines. We don't have a surveyor on staff anymore. I don't know that we may take a crack at it, but it won't be anything official. The risk is all hers. So she's still weighing her options, but in the meantime, since it's on the agenda, since it's still a possibility, we would ask for a declaration by the Park Board or a recommendation to the council.
Okay.
And again, it may never reach the council depending on what she decides, but in case it does, it's you guys have acted.
Are we running afoul of any of the council's predetermined requirements for declaring a surplus?
That was already done once, and those circumstances haven't changed. This is just a rehash of the same, one of the properties that was on that original list.
How do you get 2 fence permits and still get your fence in the wrong place?
I think the assumption is that there was a fence permit pulled. I don't know that we verified that.
Okay.
We've had a couple of other instances where out of sight, out of mind came into play, and we caught it after the fact.
Mhm. Okay, I'm okay with it. You guys, what do you think? Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean,
Well, I'm going to make the motion then to go ahead and recommend to council that the property, this area described at 2396 Waterford Drive be declared as surplus.
and I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Mr. Teresa, would you address the other surplus properties? I know that, what's going on out there at Archer Park? That's the one that led to this whole thing. Is that finally resolved? It has been finally resolved? Okay. All of them have?
This
All
is
right.
the last remaining.
Okay, good. All right. Mr. Terrington, do you have anything else to have for the commission today?
Yeah, I guess I do.
You don't have to.
I'll be the downer. What else is new, right? What are you looking at? Driving home last night, there's a gas station at the corner of North Market and Fossway, and the gas price at the time was $2.19. $3.19.
Yeah, I was gonna
Not
say.
$2.19. I'd have trash cans full of gas in my garage. No. As soon as you guys gasped, I was like, what did I say? $3.19. But this morning, when I got in early enough to beat the park maintenance staff in, but that's beside the point, the prices had been adjusted up to $3.57.
Yeah.
That is a very small example of what we are experiencing citywide, community-wide, region-wide, and probably statewide. Talking to my colleagues, we're all going through the same thing. We've had numerous bids already this year several of which we have not gotten any bidders. We've had, in the budget, we were told by ODOT to add $1.5 million to Phase 1 of West Main Street, and that was 2 months ago at least, well, more than that now. So we're hoping that at the end of March, when we do get the bids opened on that project, that we'll be okay. Madison Street lift station came in after the second time of bidding, because the first time we didn't get a bidder and then finally got somebody to bid. Came in twice as much as what our engineered estimates were. Last night, council committee has recommended to the council that we add $300,000 to another project related to West Main Street. There are just several other projects out there that we fear, the situation is going to, we know it's going to continue. Even though our federal economists have told us at first, don't worry about inflation, it's temporary, it's transitory, whatever, to then, it may last a few months, to we may have a couple of Fed rate increases, to now where we might have 8 to 10 to 12 rate increases in 2022. We are having to prepare for the worst. And we have a fairly aggressive capital improvement program. I'm glad that you approved Jeremy's building as is. We are still hopeful that it comes in under the $325,000 mark. I'm not sure it would have if we had added another garage door or additional concrete. So I say that just so you know, as you talk through, concerns about Duke Park and additional parking, and in the future we start talking about more the North Market Street ball fields and some alternative revenue streams that may be pie in the sky, may be aggressive, but that we keep looking at alternative revenue and resource sources, including but not limited to the various grants that may come available. This is one of those years, and it may be multiple years, where there's just not a lot of extra money. Things are tightening up. We did negotiate with the majority of the employees or legislate, in the case of the non-unions, 3% wage increases for the next 3 years, which we thought was a pretty reasonable rate. However, with the way inflation has been, we've been experiencing over the last couple of months, that may not even be keeping up with the price of food and gasoline. So just ask that you be aware of that. Love the vision, love the long-term plans, but they may not be short-term solutions until we figure out what the heck's going on nationwide.
Dollar signs with them, don't they?
Lots, and they're getting bigger, yeah.
Let me ask you this about the possibility of the stay-at-home employee who's not a resident of Troy. How is that going to impact our revenues?
We are monitoring that. We will not know the answer to that until April 18th, which is when our deadline hits for tax due day. And as it stands right now, workers in that situation can file for rebates for last year. That's the first year that they can do that. So that's where we'll know what the impact really is. We are guardedly optimistic that it won't be as impactful as some of the other communities, because we have a lot of diversity in our businesses. We do have quite a bit of manufacturing facilities where people can't work from home, but we do have our share of higher end back office type administrative support staff as well. But we're not hearing that there's any kind of major shift in the top 10 employers that we have in town. But again, we're holding our breath metaphorically,
Okay.
until April 18th.
Okay, well, while you're up here, I skipped an agenda item apparently.
You did.
Let's talk about the Treasure Island use agreements. We have a memorandum from you, so you want to discuss that, please?
Sure, we have two, I believe you're talking about the two
The non-ticketing events at
concert,
Treasure Island?
the TI concerts.
Yes, that's
The
it.
Thai concerts, two of them where, as we've done in past years, there would be the controlled sale of alcohol by our ever able and willing Recreation Department, who is shaking his head right now.
Has that been a problem before, Ken? The sale of alcohol?
We have not had any issues.
Knock on wood.
The dates on the agenda, the memo is correct, however, the date on the agenda should be June 24th, not July 24th. Just want to make sure that we have the dates correct.
The memorandum has 3 dates. There's also a July 4th event, but that
July
does,
4th does not have alcohol.
No, July
Gotcha.
4th is not.
so the issue now is to go ahead and get a recommendation for us for the sale of alcohol at on those 2 dates at Treasure Island.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions, Mr. Titterington? May I entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. All right. Mrs. Knight, do you have anything else to come before the commission?
No, thank you.
Hi, Mayor. Do you have anything to come before the commission today? Mr. Davis?
Pass her to the building for me very nicely.
Okay, good. Gentlemen, anything? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, yes.
Well, I had one other thing, because we're coming up on baseball season again, and we had somebody from the high school come to us a year ago, fall, I don't know when it was, about signage.
Yeah.
Where
Well, what happened was that our law director indicated that that was in violation of the zoning code, and that we told them that it couldn't. Mr. Titterington, did you address that?
Yeah, and that was part of it. I didn't want to interrupt. That was a concern, but we are looking at some other options that we've really got to time that and get something back to the park board for some discussion. Some just different ways that instead of the signage or a different type of sign or something that may include some sponsorships in other ways that could help fund the improvements or some of the improvements that they want to see out there.
Okay. And I also, somebody said there was somebody who wanted to make a big donation on a new scoreboard, put their name on it.
Yeah, well, big is a relative term. I believe the scoreboard might need some relatively minor renovations. I don't think it needs to be replaced.
Okay.
And so there are some, I believe that the estimated costs that I had heard were a couple of $1,000s. So that's why we want to talk about other things besides just renovating the scoreboard that might make it worthy of having their name at the bottom of said scoreboard.
What scoreboard
Yeah,
particularly?
what scoreboard are we talking about?
One of the ones at North Market, I'm not sure exactly which
Baseball
one.
field or the softball field? Baseball field?
Yes.
I don't know.
We haven't dove into it yet, yeah. We haven't gotten into the details yet.
Okay.
So that's not happening this year, is what you're saying?
I don't know about this year, it won't be happening this month.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Commission members have anything else they want to talk about? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Make a
second
motion.
it. Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we stand.